hello everyone. My name is Kate Stallings, owner of Kate Creative Media LLC, a web design and online marketing company in Canton, and I'm joined by Kristen Mann today. How are you, Kristen?
I'm good. It's Friday.
It's Friday, and it's good to be the end of the week. And I know that just like I'm the web girl, you're probably the design girl, the graphic design person. Can you tell me a little bit more about your services and dive into some other stuff that people might not know that you do offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm Kristen Mann. I own Kristen Mann Design LLC, which is a solo run operation by me. I'm a graphic designer, which is actually pretty broad. So like you said, what I do, I always describe it as I work with brands to create a cohesive look and feel amongst like all platforms. We could start with the logo, but then also apply that to print design, like business cards and stuff like that. And then also their social media pages, infographics, print design, you name it, like everything, everything except video and photography and website design, I would say.
Yeah, and how does your logo process work, or any of the design process? Because people will say is, I have an idea and might just stop there. Sometimes it stops there on my end for other people as well. So where do you start? Mood boards, Pinterest, just drawing, just, having a cup of coffee in the morning and just thinking over, not even touching pen to paper yet until you get something in your mind? Or do you kind of go back to the client and say, can you give me a little more information?
Yeah, so normally it's not the fun stuff at first. Of course, like I'm asking them questions, like that's the first step, obviously, is getting as much as I possibly can out of them. But of course, that doesn't always help. So then from there, I actually do a lot of research, which is kind of where the more like technical component of my job comes in. So especially for logos, like I do a brand analysis of like other companies that are in their competing space, just to see like what other iconography they're using or what colors or what fonts, and just getting an overall sense of like what the trends are. And then from there discussing that with the client and being like, this is what I'm seeing. I don't know if it makes sense to stick with these trends or break them. Like if like everyone in a certain industry is using like blue and green, like why are they using blue and green? Like does that have significance? Like just doing simple things like that and asking the questions.
Right. Because there's a
And
lot of
then it's
research
getting into the
behind.
fun part.
There's a lot of research behind colors, typography,
Yeah.
subconscious feelings and symbols and stuff like that. So and a lot of people don't know it until you kind of bring it up or say, hey, you do, and especially with the research. I remember when I was doing that, when we were doing more logos and bringing that up and saying, hey, did you realize that your competitor was doing this and maybe we can do something like this or play on words or something like that. But and then when people are too vague, because people say to me all the time, I trust your opinion. I've seen what you do. Just go for it. And usually 9 times out of 10, it'll be like, yep, that was right on point. I do what you do. Again, the research, having a great conversation in the beginning, understanding the process. And then, but those people in the beginning that are kind of like, oh, it's too vague. You do the research and everything. And then do you kind of say to them is, maybe we need a little bit more information, or do you kind of help them a little bit more in terms of, there's some people who are just like, oh, I'm too vague right now. And then maybe you come to them and say, follow up some questions with them. It's such as I do that as well. And then they kind of say, oh, wait, I'm actually not ready to take this process yet, which is totally fine. In web, they're like, oh, you actually proposed some great questions. I actually don't have the answer to that. You just saved me some time between your time, my time. Let me get my stuff together first. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let me get my stuff together first and then come back to you. Or do you find that people just go right into, I trust you, you do it, go ahead?
Yeah, I feel like that's the most difficult part of what we do, is trying to assess what they actually need and what they want. And normally, I mean, I get two kinds of people. Like there's the people who are just like interested in logo design. They're like, I kind of have an idea, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to like jump on it yet. So then I'll do the same thing as you and ask the questions, and then they'll either be like, yeah, I'm ready, or they'll be like, oh yeah, I have a lot to think about. Maybe I'll approach you in a month or two when I think about these
it's
things.
funny what a question will do, and you say, oh, well, like for me, where are you hosted? Where, when's the last time you updated your website?
Right.
Oh, I actually just did it last year. Oh, okay, well, maybe it doesn't need to be updated. Or, oh, it's been 10 years since I updated it, just like with a logo. And some people will come to me and say, do you do logo design too? And I'm like, well, what are you looking for? And then that opens up more questions
Right.
that you're better at than I am. And when you do that brand research, are you seeing anything that's like, again, Cosmic Sans, I'm sure you see all the fonts being like, oh my God, certain things where you're like, oh, you cringe, right? You're like, why would you choose that?
Yeah.
Because I mean, they might be designing things in literally like in Word. I've seen people send me stuff
Word
in
and
Word
PowerPoint.
documents from like 1999 that they haven't even updated. Like, oh,
Yeah, they're like, I don't know what this file is.
Yeah, it's just on my old computer, and I'm like, well, we're gonna have to start over. But do you see anything like design, colors, gradients, fonts that or really simple logos that are kind of like everyone's going towards, or anything that you kind of tell people to be pulled back on and say, okay, everyone's going towards that. It's almost kind of moot at this point to even look at that, or do you tell them, hey, there's another way to go about it? But anything too common or any trends?
I mean, I think the biggest trend, and it makes perfect sense, is just like being simple and like flat. And like, as you know, obviously, like you work with this on a daily basis, but like everything has to work on both desktop and mobile.
Right.
And then a lot of my clients also needed to work in print.
Mm-hmm.
So like if someone's like really gung-ho about adding like a gradient to their logo, I'm like, that's fine, especially if you're going to keep it on web or on mobile. But when you're printing it, that could be a huge nightmare. So it's just trying to make what they want work while also making it function in the environment that it needs to function. But I mean, if you look at like the history of Instagram logos, like you'll see the first Instagram logo and it's like super detailed. It's like, it's cute. Like I love it. And like now you look at all like
it was the brown camera.
Yeah, exactly. And like now you look at like your phone and everything is like flat color and like super simple, but like that's because like app icons are so tiny, so they can't have a ton of detail. So I think a lot of that simplicity trend is just a result of like everything else that's going on and like how you're viewing everything.
When you said
I
the
don't think
Instagram,
it's bad, but if you can be a little bit more unique and playful and colorful, then that's
and when you said the Instagram logo, that reminded me of like, if you look at the Apple logo, I don't know if you've seen it, how it changes. Like it was something like, it was like almost like it was like a Victorian kind of letter. It was so like something with a scroll and something holding it. It was like a raven. I don't know. It was something weird. And all of a sudden all of a sudden into like a, the Apple. And I tell people is, that can, just like your website, it's just like fashion. It's never ending. It continues to change.
An evolution.
That, yes, you can continue to change, just like your website. You can change your logo. And I mean, just because someone says, oh, that's our logo, that's been on everything. Well, think of all the great brands that have had their logo on, they all do switches. They all do minor things.
Oh, yeah.
And then that turns into usually a Twitter trend about, I don't like Cheez-Its new logo, or whatever it may be. And then I don't know, maybe some people do that for marketing, but
for sure.
Yeah. And have you worked on any interesting projects lately, or any that really you want to point out?
Yeah, so the most recent big project I completed was for a company that helps other companies build online businesses. So they do a lot of research, and they have a report every year that they send to all their clients and prospective clients, just saying like, oh, this is like the results from all the different communities that we've helped set up, and like why communities are good and the benefits and pros and cons and things like that. So it was like, I don't even know, like a 50-page report, but it was full of infographics and charts, which I love doing, but it was just a lot in the beginning, especially for working with like a new client. I had to like figure out their brand, but then also like how they work. And they were like, this is how it looked last year, but we don't want it to look like this. So it was a lot to figure out, but I find that the projects that are like the most challenging and stressful, usually at the end, I'm like, oh, that was so good. Like, I love it. Like I learned so much, and like the portfolio piece is going to be like incredible.
And what did you design it in?
So it's two different programs. So the reports in InDesign, but all of the the infographics are in Illustrator.
Yeah, well, that's great because I've done that before and I can appreciate everything you did because I've done it before and it can be, if you're not having everything where it should be, all the file names, everything, it can be
It's so
quite extensive.
overwhelming.
And then did you work with the print company? Did they communicate with you saying we need it in this format and having the pages bleed off and all that stuff? Did you coordinate with them on getting that
Yeah,
final
I
printed?
mean, they have a printer that they use,
Mhm.
but my background is actually in print. Like before I went off on my own, and actually the job before the last full-time job I held, I was at a print company. So I helped them set it up, but they had someone that they use. But if a client comes to me and they need a printer, I have like so many on hand, depending on where they are and what they need. I've got a big network of printers.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you can help a lot of people and really any stage, whether it be new, startup, 10 years old, 50 years, 70, 100th year of,
Yeah,
a
totally.
business operation. What is the best way for someone to get in touch with you, whether it be phone or email or your website?
Email's probably best just because when I'm in the creative zone and I get a phone call, it could throw me off. So my email is kristenmandesign@gmail. You can also go to my website, kristenmandesign.com, or follow me on Instagram. All the information is there too, and that's designed by Kristen.
Awesome. And I will add your information to the post here, but I thank you for
Awesome.
joining and I look forward to seeing the more work that you do.
Thanks. It's been great to get to know you and work with you.
Of course. All right. Have a great one.
All right, you too.